Hey guys, how the hell are you? Today we get to do an all-new unbiased gear review on this. The VHD by SNK Pedals. So first, some quick specs on this unit. This is created by SNK Pedals. It is based off of the channel A of the Ampeg VH140C. As such, it has volume, high, ultra mid, low, and gain controls, a heavy-duty switch, a heavy-duty power-coated enclosure, as well as top-mounted input and output jacks, as well as a 9-volt adapter jack. So guys, something that we're starting to see a lot of coming forth from various boutique pedal builders here and there is we're starting to see a lot of awesome high-gain preamp pedals that bring forth the sounds of yore. The old school kick-ass solid state metal tones especially, because let's be honest, plexis in a box have been done to death. Fender Tweeds in a box have been done to death. But can we find a Marshall Valve State in a box? Can we find a Randall RG100 ES in a box? Can we find an Ampeg VH140C in a stomp box enclosure? And that is what SNK Pedals has done here. This is a pretty interesting unit. And the fact that it's based off of one of the most popular high-gain solid-state amps that everyone and their mother seemed to own back in the 90s is really, really fucking cool to me. So strap in, plug in, let's see what sort of tones we can get out of this thing, and let's see if we can channel that awesome old-school death metal tone. For the purposes of this tone demo, we will be utilizing my Framus television model, which is loaded with Seymour Duncan Alnico 2 Pros for those warm lows and those crisp, clean highs. Okay, so the signal chain is what I normally use. The pedal is going into the effects return of the Dover DA50. The depth knob is turned up to about 1 o'clock. The presence knob is turned up to about 3 o'clock because you really want to have a little bit extra presence coming through when you're using a preamp pedal like this, so that way you get more of the actual character of the pedal coming through. The two notes Wall of Sound is my impulse loader, and I am using the same preset I normally use to demo pretty much everything. It is a blend of an Angle double XL cabinet with a Fortin Beast with greenbacks. I feel like those two cabs blended together give me kind of a nice even response that plays well with pretty much everything you run through it. So anyways, enough bullshit. This is my clean tone. Without the pedal engaged, and now let's engage it. Black metal test passed. So something I'm noticing right away, do you notice how there's still quite a bit of low end on tap even when you pump that low knob all the way back? Let's throw a boost on in front of it just to see what happens. On the board today, I have a Fortin hex drive. The level is turned up to about 3 o'clock. The drive is at 9 o'clock. And the tone is straight up at noon. Here's the tone without the pedal. And now with. a Tube Screamer style OD in front of it as a boost kind of does exactly what you want it to do in front of an actual amp. It's really awesome. It just tightens it up just that little bit, makes things just a little bit more refined. It's really nice results that you're getting out of that. There again, that's without. That's with. Again, without. And just for gits and shiggles, I've got something special on the board today because someone suggested this during a recent live stream and I loved the end result. So let's do this. Let's actually put nice and neutral. Just absolutely nasty. Running a Boss HM2 in front. The level is at high noon. The distortion is kicked back to about 9 o'clock. And the high and low controls are all the way up. And you're just getting a nasty, brutal Swedish buzzsaw tone out of it. So guys, overall, my final thought, I definitely think that this unit is pretty goddamn impressive running it into the effects return of the Dover. I think that I am getting some gnarly tones out of this thing. Now, that being said, it's a little bit less refined than what I am used to playing. So I typically like things a little bit tighter than this. This definitely has a ton of gain on tap. It can easily become a garbled mess. There's also a lot of everything. There's tons of mids, there's tons of lows, there's tons of treble. In my opinion, that's a great thing though, because it's better to have too much than not enough. So definitely some interesting tone shaping capabilities on this thing. If you do decide that you want to tighten things up on this, hey, just throw a boost or a tube screamer style overdrive in front. It does wonders with this preamp unit, and it got honestly a wide variety of tones out of it depending on the instrument I was running through it. Stuff that sounded a little bit more vintage had a little bit more of a fuzzier flavor to it. Stuff that had a little bit more of a high end coming from the pickups definitely played very, very nicely with this. Hell, for that matter, stuff that sounded even darker and tended to evoke that certain like mid-90s feel tended to play very, very well with this. Like, I kind of wish that I had like an Ibanez Universe green dot around here somewhere so I could run through this. That would be absolutely rad. And I have every bit of faith that it would sound absolutely killer, absolutely fucking destructive through this thing. Because it just had that sort of tone to it. It was dark, but at the same time, like, just refined and just kind of unrefined enough. Like, I know that sounds weird, but it was a weird dichotomy. So, yeah, you can tighten things up, but if you like things nice and loose and a little bit fuzzy and further broken up, this was killer. Speaking of a little bit nastier tones, like, if you wanted some incredible results, one of the things that I loved doing with this thing was running an HM2 in front of it. But with the gain dialed back on the HM2 and just kind of pumping up everything as far as the EQ section on the HM2 goes. It killed running that in front of this preamp pedal. It was absolutely incredible. So, I mean, it sounds absolutely killer. Could I honestly say that, yes, it totally evokes the same feel and the same tone that the amp it's based on does? That is a question for a different guitar player, because even though I kind of came up in the mid-90s scene a little bit, and that's kind of where I got my sea legs, so to speak, I never really got a lot of time with the Ampeg VH140C. It was one of those things where I knew people that played it. I knew that a lot of my favorite bands in the era played it. A lot of hardcore bands. John Gallagher from Dying Fetus was playing these for a while, the VH140Cs. And that to me is enough of a reason to want to pursue it and to want to reissue it, because his tone was massive back in the day. It still is massive, but man, it was so good. I think Thomas from Camelot used to use one at one point. Read between the lines, it was one of those really, really popular mid-90s solid state amps that it seemed like everyone that was into high gain had at some point. Like Valve States or Crate GX models, etc. It seemed like everyone had one. And I mean, if nothing else, this definitely evokes the spirit of that era. Something that is super gainy, something that is super brutal, has a lot of tone shaping capability on tap to it, and definitely captures that spirit. But Arnold, what are you drinking today? I am so glad that you asked. Let's go to the beer fridge and let's find out. Today, from Angry Chair Brewing, Untitled Art, we are having Loaded French Toast Imperial Stout. It is a 11% alcohol by volume that comes in a 16-ounce can like this. It is something that I read about and was very, very excited to find it at my local grocery store. So I was like, ooh, let me pick this up. Let me finally give this a try. Because I always love pastry stouts. I love how sweet they can be. I love how desserty they can be. So let's give it a shot. As I spill it all over the place, that's great. It pours a super pitch black, has kind of a tannish head to it. Super sweet aroma. Jesus Christ, does that smell super sweet. Wow. Very, very, very desserty. Let's give this a shot. Oh, man. Oh, jeez. This is heavy. This is heavy, and I don't mean in an alcohol heavy. I mean this is a fucking sugar coma in a can kind of heavy. Super thick molasses and sugary flavor to it. So if you don't necessarily like sugary beer, you'll hate this. For me, this is just kind of barely over the edge of being too much. Just like with the pedal, how there can be a little bit too much gain, a little bit too much low end, a little bit too much highs, and you have to dial it back. This is unfortunately something that not so easy to dial back. This is a little bit over the top, to be honest with you. So, I mean, it's good, it's delicious, but just ever so slightly too much. So thank you guys so much for tuning in. Please remember to like this video, subscribe to this channel. There's tons more metal, guitar-oriented content to come. And remember, please, take what you do seriously, but do not take yourselves too seriously.